So with Build King, we're at chapter 5. Now entering the territory of like the first mission. Like, what is the first kind of mini arc? Like previously, like we just had the establishment, kind of just getting stuff set up, getting a little bit just laying out the characters. The thing now we're gonna see is the first little adventure. Like I said, like you're going to this upside down castle that needs renovations. No, we have Nana, we know that he is more handy in terms of carpentry. But my question is, what is Tonkachi's job going to be in this? Because as of right now, he's not a very good carpenter in terms of like actual general construction. We know that factually it's been displayed in the story, but his thing has been that he's strong and he's got a lot of room to kind of like grow in terms of like actual building. But the way that him and Nana have been set up is Nana's the builder and Tonkachi's like the defender of these homes. Like he's the guy that is like, oh, the big monster that could pose a threat or whatever, he's gonna go stop it. He's like he is like the guardian kind of like setup. I think that's kind of cool. I've enjoyed that so far, the whole idea of building peace, him kind of just generally taking out any of the problems that presented in what could give people stress and take away their happiness. I think that the overall layout of like how he's presented so far is good, but how that's going to work in the next couple chapters, I assume, is going to have some form of monster in these castles, because there's a couple statements in this chapter by this girl Cork about like her dad. It makes me think that there's going to be some form of fight that ensues. I really like this chapter of the House Beast. I almost used the page of the House Beast, but I figured that using the upside down castle was more important, just because it's like it's the first mission thing. I think it's just cool that you've got this hanging upside down castle, and it's all broken and shoddy, and it's gonna be really weird to see them just kind of go about fixing this and go into this castle in general. Like, are they gonna have to hang from ropes? Is there gonna be a way that they're gonna be able to hang upside down? But the chapter starts out, you have that girl, she's hanging upside down because she's from this place. She's actually from this hanging upside down castle. So like her dad is like depicted as like very vampire-y. He's like King Bat the 13th, and I'm guessing she's probably got to be at least somewhat of this. Like, is she supposed to be bat-like as well? Because that makes sense of why she'd be hanging upside down even with a skirt on thing. But like, she gets some pants on, she's just hanging out with these guys, talking to them, and she seems to have developed a liking to Renga, but a disliking of Tonkachi. So unfortunately, Tonkachi doesn't get that like early female lead who just kind of falls in love with them thing, or maybe like set up to have affections. This is either not going to happen yet, or this is his, whoever his romance character is. But we find out that Cork isn't actually the boss of these bandits. Like, they work for her dad. They just call her boss because she is like a designer. She's an architect essentially. So that's why I think she's gonna have to be in the main cast, because you essentially have with her the entire like the trio set up of one cast wise. You got the main character, you got the main character's kind of like brother, kind of companion guy, and then you have the female lead romantic interest potentially, but you have the guy who builds stuff, you have Renga, you have Tonkachi, who's like the one to be defend them, and then you'd have this girl Cork, who's the designer. She would design the houses and stuff, and I would imagine on top of that she could probably just design upgrades and things. That's the only thing I could see otherwise like them getting in the main cast, is somebody that maybe like is like a tool expert, because that's how I would picture general upgrades in the series store, because that is one thing you'd have to kind of like picture in this world, is the tools themselves would have to be crazy, along with like the materials and the people building them and using them and stuff. Because I mean, like, even Tonkachi's hammer so far, has very crazy, powerful abilities. Essentially, it's powered up by what was it, your vigor, your own strength, and it's more powerful depending on the user. So we're gonna run into more of these weird powered weapons and stuff. What are these things with abilities? But I legitimately do really like looking at these house bandits, because they're clearly the silly bad guys. They're the guys who are you're not supposed to take that much of a threat, but they're going to be causing mischief. And I think the fact that we're going to see these guys who are, in reality, they're just kind of big, goonish looking dudes. They're, way bigger than normal humans. But for the most part, they're just, big, dumb, muscle headed idiots. Like, they're not even powerful for their own world, but they're just goons for, like, the general person's kind of, like, perception. And that can be hidden as, like, singular houses. And when they get to, like, fight, they have this, like, house armor. They look silly, but it's neat to look at the same time. I do like that about them. I think they're pretty fun just from, what has, like, been displayed so far. So right now, I have been having fun with the series. I'm hoping more people can get into it. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I really like just the layout of what we've been given so far, because Shimabukuro is very creative, and how much of a weird series he's just put out, even in 5 chapters, like, shows that it's going to be a very odd ride, but a very fun ride. But then, like, they're running the house beast. Us seeing, like, how the house beast moves, I think, is actually also really interesting. Essentially, the chunk of earth that it's on as well as part of it, which I think is neat. It's not just, like, the house itself. So it is literally like a mimic. Because the thing about a mimic is, the chest was part of it, and it just, all of its organs were kept inside. So I assume somewhere within here, like, there is a core to, like, the house beast. And that's all it really is, because a mimic is, like, the same concept, but the house beast is just a more kind of complex version. It's a bigger one that has a lot more parts to it. But we had a pretty comedic scene when Tonkatchi's inviting him in, and she's like, "You don't think the house beast is gonna eat me?" And he doesn't have an answer for that. He's just like, "Yeah, I never really thought about that, so maybe." I thought that was just pretty funny. But looking inside of the house beast, I thought was really cool. It was probably my favorite part of the chapter, but I used the upside down castle just because it's more important story wise, and it is really cool too. But I do really like having just general kind of X-ray scenes of this, so like when it comes to characters' bases, just because it's neat to have an understanding of what it's like in there and what they have. I think that's just badass for just, like, in general, like a nice small, like, scale early base. And I like that. I like seeing of what the characters can have. And it's kind of like how it's bigger, but, like, there's more people, and you really got to look at this comparison. It's like how, like, we have, like, the Black Bulls base, or the Fairy Tail Guild Hall, or what is it, the Thousand Sunny for the Straw Hats. You like knowing the main character's HQ, essentially. It's just a fun, neat kind of story aspect piece. I think anybody who listens, like, you know that you like knowing more about, like, where your main cast is hanging out all the time. What is their HQ like? But we find a little bit more about, like, Cork's dad, and how, like, there's he used to have people, like, pretty much kidnap house beasts. So that's one of the things I'm wondering is, like, are there going to be house beasts inside of the undead castle, upside down castle, that Tonkatchi is going to have to fight? Because he's definitely going to have some form of opponent in this. There's going to have to be some form of adversary, because otherwise Tonkatchi's not going to do anything. Because if it was later, it'd be different for, like, when he actually gets the ability to, like, be a good, like, constructor. I don't know if he's ever going to be amazing, but I would assume eventually he learns how to do, like, normal construction stuff. But he's going to have somebody to fight, because there is still an action series aspect to this. But I was really happy to see more Build Kings, because that's the thing about this series I think is really interesting. The title isn't it doesn't have anything to do with, like, the goal of what Tonkatchi is doing, because he wants to be a master builder. Because those are the people that make the Build Kings. The Build Kings are the construction themselves. It's like these legendary buildings. And we see a little bit more of them. We see this, like, this hotel underwater. We see this, like, really weird building. I don't really know what to call that kind of snake looping building is. It's kind of like a Snake Way in Dragon Ball. But then there's, like, this Rubik's Cube of different, like, giant castles or something. That one's really weird. And again, I really like this author. It's because he's very strange, and he's able to just create a lot of weird stuff. So I'm really hoping to see what exactly he's got, and like, hoping to see just, we get some of it pretty soon. Yeah, I have been pushing the agenda, and I know that people just haven't been giving it as much of a chance just because of the weird premise. But it's such a fun. It's just one of the series that it's weird, but that's what makes it fun. And you need to have, you know, it's just a series that's enjoyable. I think anybody can really have fun jumping on board with. So this chapter, like, again, it just kind of like goes out. We see a little bit more house beasts. I like the designs of those. I think they just in general look pretty neat. I think the tree one looks the coolest. It's got like this weird tree canopy kind of like look to it. But then we see the upside down castle. We see King Bat. You know, he's this pretty big looking dude, and him hanging upside down. Again, that makes it just kind of like consistent with like the whole fact that Kork was upside down when we saw her, like wasn't paying attention to the fact she was wearing a skirt. And again, it's just kind of small stuff like that I think works for, you know, the reader got some fan service and whatnot, but also it made sense to the characters, and it adds a little bit extra to the personality of the characters because you're able to kind of understand a little bit more about them in their background off of something that you don't think of it that way at the start. I think that's the kind of like weird way to look at like the whole hang upside down thing. Like to us it'd be like, oh, fan servicey, but to her it's more just like a unfortunate coincidence, and it gives us like the understanding like of her like growing up in this upside down castle. But definitely the castle does look really beat up. I like the naming of like the damage, like what is it, oh my, there's like 250,000 or 250 million leaks in the floors and 1.5 billion holes in the whole thing. So there's this massive just number of like the sad state this castle is in, this massive castle, and I really can't wait to see when they get there so we can see like just the general actual size of it. It is huge, but it looks bigger than I'd say it looks bigger than what, you know, you'd expect, just because of like you see like this big archway on top of it, and it's not even close to as big as the castle. So it wouldn't surprise me if the castle is like it's like anime castle size. It's you know, it's one of those ones that's just way bigger than it logically needs to be and not proportionally like real world castle size. But I'm looking forward to this. I think this is going to be pretty fun. I don't really see I don't see this as like the idea. I think people would probably look at this like, oh, they're going to go to this weird castle and build. I think there's going to be a lot more action, a lot of wild, wacky stuff coming at it. It's really weird because like I can understand people's general ideas for Build King of like if they looked at, oh, carpentry. It's kind of like what people would thought of like Food Wars, like when it first came out, and then people really liked it. But I mean, it's got like this action fan service style to it. But I think it's gonna be more action for Build King, but it's definitely gonna have a little bit of fan service just based off of the way Kork's first introduction was. But I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I think we're gonna get a lot of just general cool scenes, a lot of fun fights, and a lot of cool designs, and just great world building. That's again to me like the thing that I've been pushing. The biggest thing that I can't wait to see is like Shimabukuro style. But other than that, look, comment below, thumbs up the video, befriend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Rather than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.